I can get started. Oh, checking the microphone.
Test. I'm good on my end.
Sounds good. Wow. Here you are. All right, we're going to get started on the special meeting for the P&Z as far as, well, the date is the 27th of August. And it's about the redistricting, or rezoning.
Correct.
Rezoning is the proper word. So first order of business is the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we need to see if we have a quorum. Eddie,
Right.
if you can do that.
Commissioner Gallegos,
Present.
Commissioner Miller,
Present.
Madam Chair Lucero, Commissioner Walkinshaw,
Present.
and then Commissioner Salas. Commissioner Walkinshaw, you have quorum.
Thank you. Eddie, you're gonna introduce the case?
Yes, I'll go ahead and introduce the case.
Okay.
And then I'll leave the floor to the applicant so he can give his presentation.
Okay.
And then at that time, anytime throughout, again, this is not a hearing, this is just a action and consideration. So anytime anybody has any questions of such, you can, have dialogue on what's not, okay? Again, I'll give a brief description since we had this hearing last week on Monday, the 19th. We heard the hearing from case number 061870. This is at 2750 Old Farm Road. It was submitted by Enrique Vigil and Melanie Altuna Vigil. They are requesting for a rezone their 3-acre RA into a 3 single R1 properties, so parcels. Again, this case was heard last year. It was denied by the P&Z. The applicant did resubmit their application due to some discrepancies that you can probably see that the attorney was not able to be here tonight, but he did write a letter of recommendation, I guess, in his sense, that the commissioners have and have read. Therefore, let me see. One of the things two things I want to point out tonight. I think that as I was listening during the hearing last week, I was hearing Anton from the Moy Surveying. He was speaking about the Greenbelt, right? One of the things that our code has little to no referencing of the Greenbelt, right? The Greenbelt is mostly mentioned in our comprehensive plan, which is in 2017. And one thing that kind of struck out to me, what he was talking was, the Greenbelt refers to large parcels it's within our community, and in reference to them to be 5 acres, right? So, and I have a copy there. I left it in front of you. I highlighted that section. That is the sheet off of the comprehensive plan. And so the Greenbelt last year, this case was denied because, we were afraid that we were diluting the Greenbelt in the sense from the town of Mesilla. And I understand the core plaza needs to be protected by this Greenbelt and have that cushion from outside, county and Las Cruces and anybody else that we need that cushion to kind of help us separate and become unique as a town. But we are the planning and zoning in which we are required to review our code and make decisions based on our code and not so much on the comprehensive plan. As the attorney has mentioned, the comprehensive plan is more of an idea of what, but it's not really a code that's in place for us to make decisions off of. So due to, again, when he was speaking, the comprehensive plan year when it was submitted and denied for two reasons. One was because the subdivision was not in order to allow, which after speaking with the attorney, he questioned that, where right now our trial is based on a rezone and not so much on the subdivision application being submitted. Will come after the fact, if it is approved, then obviously the next step will be to submit a subdivision request. At that time, those concerns will be addressed, right? Soon after the subdivision, if approved, another application would need to be submitted as a zoning permit application for homes to be built. So there's a process, and all those details and all those concerns will be addressed at that particular time. So right now we are concentrating on a rezone. Is it within our code, and does the applicant qualify for his request? Okay. Again, the greenbelt last year was denied because dilution of the greenbelt, and it didn't meet subdivision requirements. Once it was denied here, it was appealed, and it was heard by the BOT, okay? And the BOT decision was, I believe it was 2-1, or I forget what decision was. It was 2-1. Oh no, 3-1 or something. It passed.
Yep.
It was denied, right? It was denied. Yeah, so it was denied, right? And due to being denied, in our code it states you need to write up a resolution of facts and findings and mail that to the applicant as a result of their answer, right? Well, that never happened. Okay, that never happened. What happened was the resolution was after the trial and the decision was made for it to be declined. The next step after that was supposed to be approve the resolution or the facts and findings on the following meeting by the BOT, and they never got anywhere because it was never put on the table, because there was a motion to approve, and they never got a second, right? And because it never got a second, that is why we're kind of in the position we're in right now. Okay, so again, it was denied last year because of the greenbelt and the subdivision. Now we're here again because after reading the code, the greenbelt does not apply to this case, in my opinion, after interpreting, because it's not referenced. Again, it's not a 5-acre parcel, and a subdivision right now should not be considered because he's not applying for a subdivision. Okay.
Yeah.
Other than that, if you look at the map, I did try to put the map up there. Again, I just want to put on the table, in your mind, your forefront, that this parcel is an RA parcel. It used to be individual 1-acre parcels in the RF zone, right? It was advised at the time by the town of Mesilla, if the applicant or the owner of the property wanted to build, that they needed to combine these 3 parcels into one so that it meet the RA zone. And that is why there's one individual RA surrounded by R1 and RF. I don't know why at the time they weren't suggested to rezone it to R1 at the time. And if they would have done that, then we wouldn't be here tonight, right? So again, this is an RA in itself. If you look at the map, it's the only RA surrounded by R1 and RF, and the applicant's only asking for to be part of the R1. Any questions?
Mr. Salazar, yes, question. When was the RF rezoned to RA on that plot of land?
I can't tell you off the top of my head. I do have some minutes here. I believe it was 2001, somewhere around that. And so it's been some time since that happened. I'm not sure if the applicant, because I've only been here a little over a year, I'm not sure if the applicant has tried to rezone it since then, but I know last year they tried to do that and it wasn't successful. Any other questions?
Yes, I do have a question. When it was, like you said, it's a standalone RA surrounded to the west by R1, and even on the south by one plot of R1. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of looked up the definition of spot zoning, And I think that really applies on that.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So
So it kind of makes me wonder, that's why I kind of wonder why at the time when they were requested, if they want to build, why R1, which is the ones right next to where they was.
Two trustees that used that reasoning to vote for the subdivision because they saw it as spot zoning.
Yeah. Always also keep in mind, not too long ago, I don't know the exact date, but there is that subdivision, Reyes subdivision, not too far from there, that was also an RF and was rezoned for R1, and there are homes in that area that are being built, right? So if we're looking at presidences and we're looking at, the green zone, this is not in the RF zone, it's right next to an R1. It used to be 1 acre parcels before, they weren't advised. So, again, my opinion that it definitely complies with what they're requesting to be approved, which is to be R1.
Mr. Salazar, I remembered what I was going to ask. I looked through the packet a number of times and I couldn't find any of the plat maps that called out the third lot as 0.88. Every single one of them that I see in our packet calls them all 1 acre lots. So I'm confused where the denial or the concept that it should be denied the R1 because it's not one of them wasn't 1 acre.
I think our guest
Good question.
answered that.
Good question. When the first time that the trial was held, the applicant submitted a replat that was a previous replat, only for references. It wasn't submitted because they weren't applying for a subdivision. They were just trying to show they are the owners and this is my property. These are the property lines. Well, at that time, the replat had a 1.12 on the top where the house is at, and then the middle one was 0.88, and then the bottom one was 0.1. So overall, it's a 3 acre parcel. And if you look at, once we get to it, the subdivision, the Moist Surveying did a great job to dividing those 3 properties equally, so they all meet the 1 acre requirements for an R1 zone. But yeah, you won't find that because again, that was submitted only as a reference, and I think it confused kind of the commission at the time. And that's why when I introduced this case today, I make sure that this is our rezone case and not so much a subdivision. Any other question? No? Well, if that, then I would like to bring the applicant or Mr. Anton to represent the applicant, so for him to give his presentation and anything else he needs to say.
Good evening. My name is Anton Magallanes with Moist Surveying. Good seeing everyone again. So I don't have as detailed of a presentation today. We did have the public hearing the first time to hear the concerns of the public, and I think I support public comment, both for and against the cases I represent. I think it's important. Thematically, I think there was 2 concerns that we hear from the public, and rightly so. We hear greenbelt preservation, and we hear precedence. And the latter is easier to accomplish, or at least talk about. Decisions made by this board don't fall and carry a precedence. This isn't case law. I can come in tomorrow and say, hey guys, we're applying for a zone change. You gave me one yesterday, and you can tell me that doesn't matter. Every case that we hear is ad hoc. It's case by case, situational. And when we think about, I nerd out about this stuff a lot more than most, but bear with me. When we think about this land as it existed well before 1979, when our zoning code? 1972. So prior to 1972, we had weird shaped lots. We had small pieces. We had big pieces that were given to family members. And then the town's responsibility came and said, let's apply a zoning that's consistent with the area, that doesn't create too much mess. We're never going to get that right in one swoop. We're going to create non-conforming lots. We're going to create wrong spot zones. And I think as we progress, we're trying to minimize how many of those there are. We're trying to recorrect some of those inconsistencies that we may have created in 1972. City does it, everyone does it. I wouldn't worry as a body with precedents because, again, we don't operate that way. Everything is case by case. And I tell my customers that because I have customers that come in and say, well, they approved this subdivision. That doesn't matter at all. I agree with what Mr. Salazar is saying regarding our comprehensive plan being a guide for development versus holding it to standard. I just don't know where to turn, right? We don't have any good language within our code that describes our green belts. And I've mentioned that since I think the first time that we got here, that I would encourage the BOT to go through their process to establish the definition of what Greenbelt means to this community with public input and everything. One of the things that I think I've mentioned this once previously, but the city of Las Cruces has, of course, general zoning designations, but certain communities have gathered together to develop city blueprints. And so what those are is specific areas within our city that have different characteristics from one another that the city has adopted as ordinance to help us develop more characteristically with that community. And I think that's a great guide. We could have a Greenbelt overlay, you know what I mean? Just characteristics to help our development. Precedence, Greenbelt preservation, super important. Again, I appreciate Mr. Salazar's mentioning that this is one step in a process of about 6 more, 5 more. We're gonna still submit a subdivision application. The subdivision documents that we produced initially and again today are just a guide to say this is what we're thinking. And last time, or last hearing, or last case, I guess rather, I did try and state that our code does allow for a variance. If we have physical hardships that can, different types of hardships for development, we can apply for a variance, which may have been approved for our 1 acre down to 0.88 at that time. But it would have had its process to be reviewed, subject to public input. I do feel we may have been unfairly judged on the layout, but what we are proposing is what they're happy with and hoping to work towards to progress. But I'd be happy to answer any questions if y'all have any. Sounds good. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you.
No, if anybody else wants to make any comment? No? All right. Lastly, I just, as Anton was speaking again, I understand again, the thought of protecting our core, right, our plaza. And as Anton was mentioning, now something that also come to mind is the hardship, right? When this code was codified, there was plenty of water, there was plenty of farming, it was booming, a lot of the landowners here were able to survive, families and such things, it's an older community. So there's a lot of the homeowners then are no longer with us, and a lot of the relatives or inheritance no longer want to be farmers, right? So there's a lot of properties out there that are just sitting there vacant. A lot of them also don't have water rights, don't have wells, so at what point is that going to become a hardship for the applicant or anybody else that needs to install a well because of farming and small farming such as 2 to 5 acres. And I'm a big farmer, so I understand that point. It's hard to make money in this community in this day and age. So again, this applicant is requesting to rezone their property from RA to 3 individual parcels of R1, 1 acre. And I stand by for any questions.
I know the other, well, it has to do with the comprehensive plan, but I know there was concerns during the public meeting, the official meeting there, that the other concern was housing. That we really don't, we've got a housing problem just like any part of the country or the world, probably for that matter. And so I like this proposal from the standpoint we are developing 2 more houses. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a positive thing for the town and for the applicants, obviously. And so I just wanted to put that out, but I also wanted to put out that, if you look at the impacts on the green zone, which some people think is just RF, and I agree with that. And, 3 acres in the R zone is only 0.12% of the total green belt. When I say green belt, the RF is about 24,000 or 2,450 square acres.
Sure.
So that it's pretty minor
Yeah.
as far as that goes. And like I said before, I'd like to see, this is the way that we can kind of correct the R1 zoning or get rid of the RA because it is spot zone.
It's just sitting right there like a sore thumb.
So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Also, I would be on the other side of the fence if these properties were full pecan trees, right? They're full of mature pecan trees farmed with water rights, with all these things, and they want to knock them down and they want to build them develop. Then definitely I would be on the other side of the fence saying, well, that's destroying the green belt, right? Because we definitely want to keep, productive agricultural land, to be able to be that buffer. But as Anton mentioned as well, as our setting precedents is, it's always going to be a case by case. And a lot of times we're scared or we're worried that what's going to happen in the next one, somebody's going to come up with, you did it to them, you can do it to me. There's always circumstances that we need to consider. And a lot of times it's not black and white. Sometimes we just got to do whatever we interpret with the code and figure out what's best for the community.
I got another question as far as you brought up, utilities, infrastructure and what have you. And I understand the infrastructure currently is all the way up and they put, when they regraded the road or did the, not very.
A university?
Yeah, university. It's all the way up to, they refer to it as a lodge. What lodge is that?
It's one right next to the property that they're, right there on Farm Road.
Masonic Lodge.
It's Masonic. Okay. So my understanding, and I talked to the mayor a little bit to kind of get an idea of where the water was in the sewer, and it stops there. But the mayor is also trying to get some money to extend, and not just in that area, but other areas, so they can serve water and sewer to the other areas.
Correct.
So that was good to hear, because I know there's concern in the comprehensive plan about whether the town can afford to extend and maintain, because they've got a lot to maintain right now. So I know that's part of the concern is. So, so currently, where do you get your water from? Well?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I have a well 300 feet deep.
Okay.
My neighbor also has a well at the south end.
South end. Okay.
My neighbor, Bustos,
Mhm.
Geraldine Bustos, that lives in the White Home.
Okay.
She's also on a well because there's no city water.
Right. And then the sewage is septic.
Yes, sir. We're all in septic.
Okay.
Even the house there on the corner of the university.
Yeah, I was just curious about it because I know it gets approved and we go ahead and do the next process, which is the subdivision, then that would come into play as far as utilities, I would think.
Yeah, we'll be discussing all the utilities, all that, and go into place, but you're pretty much on point. I mean, but I think that's kind of putting the horse ahead of, the carriage, but yeah, that's definitely a discussion that we will have considered.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No?
No? Mr. Chair, are you ready for a vote?
Yes, sir.
All right. Can you ask for a motion?
Oh, yeah. Ask for a motion for a vote.
So moved.
Second. Thank you.
Okay. If all discussion is done, I would like to take the vote, and we're going to go ahead and start with Commissioner Gallegos.
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
and Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Balthazar. Yes. Okay, 3-0, motion passes.
One more step.
All right. If nobody else has anything else, would you like to adjourn? We can make a
I'd
motion.
like to motion for adjournment.
So moved.
All right. Thank you. Thank you all for coming.
All right. Meeting's over.
Shortest meetings we've had for a while.
And the time today, right now, is 6:25.
Oh, 6:25. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Those were good questions. If we approve this, how does it move forward?
Yeah,
That's
well,
nice to know that.
Yeah, that's good to ask them those questions. Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Very good, guys. I
Glad we
appreciate
have
you.
a call today.